We now have a query to actually pull out the featured products from our backend. So let's go ahead and actually create the section in the slides that we'll use to display those featured products. To start off, let's go up to the top of featuredproducts.js and let's import the components that we'll need, starting with the grid component, just like always, from @material-ui/core/grid. And then the typography component. And then we'll also grab the icon button component. Now let's come underneath our Gatsby import, and let's also import make styles destructured out from @material-ui/core/styles. We'll also need to come underneath here and let's import the featured adornment from up-directory images featured adornment.svg and import the frame from up-directory images/product frame grid. Then let's come underneath here, create our constant of use styles equal to the make styles call, called with a function that receives our theme and then returns our object, or our style object rather. Then we can come down and instead of just returning this dummy div, let's do a multi-line statement and let's return a grid container direction of column that's going to hold all of our featured products. Before we start adding our content here, let's go ahead and get that background image set onto our main container here. So we'll give this the classes prop. For the root class of this grid, we'll give it classes.background. So now we can go up, create our background class, and here we'll set the background image property to backticks and then URL, and then we will inject the featured adornment that we have imported. Make sure to get the comma after that line. And we'll go ahead and give this a background position of top, a background size of cover, and a background repeat of no-repeat. Let's also give it a width of 100% so it takes up all the space available to it. And I think, let's see, for our promotional products, I think we used a height of 70 rem. Let's go ahead and use the same height here, 70 rem, and we'll see if that's enough. We might increase that later on. Let's go ahead and save that and flip on over to the browser. Oh, and it looks like we forgot to set up our classes constant. So of course, in the top of our function, we need our const classes equal to the use styles call. All right, and now that should find the classes. So we can go ahead and save that. Now flip on back and check that out. Nice, we've got our repeating background. Now, I don't think that that is as tall as we actually want because our featured products is going to take up some space here. So let's go ahead and let's up this to 120 rem. We'll save that. And that looks pretty good. We might have to increase it a little bit, but I think that that'll work for now. So now we need to go ahead and actually create the frame and the product image, as well as the slide of information that will come out from underneath it for each of our featured products. So let's flip back on over to the code editor, and we'll go ahead and inside of this grid, we're going to inject some JavaScript, and here we're going to take our data.allStrappyProduct.edges, and this contains the object holding each of our featured products. If we go to the browser and we inspect here in the console, we see we're still console logging out this object, allStrappyProduct.edges, and that's an array containing each of the objects for our featured products under node, and then the .name, .strappyID, and the variance, which then holds the variance, and then this holds our images with the URL. Okay, so we'll go ahead, just like we did for promo products, let's go ahead and map over the edges, and that'll give us each product, but we can go ahead and add parentheses here and destructure out the node, and then come to the side of that inner set of parentheses, and let's also pull out the index of the product that we'll be mapping over. And actually that's going to be inside of the inner set of parentheses, not the second set. And now next to that, we can open up the arrow function and we will return a grid for each of our slides. So we'll see how we are going to set the alignment here in just a second. But for now, let's just return a grid item container. And this is going to span the entire length of a single row, allowing us to then align the slide inside that row from left to right wherever we need it, whether that's the beginning, middle, or end. So we'll create a grid container here, and inside of here, let's add a grid item. Now, I think in the design overview, I said that we would then have a grid item adjacent to that, and this would be for our product frame, and this would be for the slide. But actually, the alignment won't work if we do it like this, because when we set the styles to put the slide behind our image, that would actually make it ignore the justify property that we set here, whether that's center or flex start or flex end. It will actually ignore that. So let's go ahead and we'll just start off inside of a singular item, and then we'll have this wrap first an icon button that's going to represent our image, and then underneath that, a grid container direction of column that is going to represent our slide. Let's go ahead and I'll actually comment out this grid container for a second, and let's just set up the actual image in the frame. So let's add an image inside of our icon button, and this will be a source equal to, and remember, we first have to specify our process.env.gatsby underscore strappy underscore URL to make sure it's specifying the Strappy project, or server rather, and then plus the URL from the image. So that's going to be our node.variants, and we'll pull from the first variant.images and the first image.url. So then we can go ahead, close this off. And if we go ahead and just save this right now, let's actually also add an alt, and we can just give it an alt of our node.name. So that way we just have the name showing up if the image has problems. So go ahead and save that and flip back on over and check that out. It looks like we're getting two of our images. If I go ahead, let me inspect this. Let's see, we should be getting, and it looks like we are getting a grid item for the image for the rest of these as well. But I believe, oh, it looks like they're actually being pushed over to the side currently because there's not enough space. So once we go ahead and fix up the styling for this, these will all be correctly placed in the right spots. But right now, since they're so big, they're taking up a ton of space. So let's actually go ahead and give this image a class name of classes.featured. And now we can scroll up and create our featured class. And let's give them a height of 20 rem and a width of 20 rem and save that. And now they're all taking up much more appropriate amount of space. We also need to go ahead, and since we are mapping over this, we need to add onto this main container here a key property equal to our node.strappyID. So go ahead and save that. And now let's go ahead and add the frame behind each of these images. All right, so we'll go ahead and on this grid item, wrapping our icon button, or actually let's go ahead and do it on the icon button. We can give it the classes, the root class, classes.frame. And now we can scroll up, create our frame class, and give this, let's go ahead and copy over all these background properties, and then let's change it to the frame URL. All right, in background position, let's actually make this center instead of top. So let's go ahead and save that and flip on over, and we now see that we're getting the product frame, although it's a little cut off because of the styling for the icon button. So let's also go ahead, we need a border radius of 0. Let's save that. And now we can see the full frame being appeared. Now it looks like our frame background is actually opaque, or it's transparent rather. So I'll make sure to change that SVG to have a white background behind it. So when you see it, it shouldn't be see-through like this. and it should look mostly normal, although I still have that background on the hat image that I need to clean up as well. Now we've also got our images overlapping the frame a little bit, so let's go ahead and set our frame to a height of 25 rem and a width of 25 rem as well. So it's slightly bigger than the image. So if we save, now we can see that the image fits real nicely inside of the frame. Let's go ahead and take a break here, and we'll come back and add the slide functionality in the next video.